Hey there. Didn't see you come in. I was just sitting here going through some family history documents on both sides of our family. And it got me to thinking that as we get older, we think more about our lives in the past than we do in the future. At least I know that's how it is for me. And a lot of older folks that I speak to kind of give me the same indication. So I don't know. I was just looking through these family history things, and on my mom's side, um, Valley Gill. Um, we have a signer, actually somebody who came over on the Mayflower and ultimately signed the Mayflower Compact, William Brewster. And on Cape Cod, on my mom's side, there's 13 generations till you get to myself, my brothers, my mom and dad, and my nieces and nephews and granddaughters, and all on our side. We're the 13th generation from that. And all along Cape Cod, there's all kinds of names of people that we're directly descendants of that were fire chiefs and police chiefs, and then they're head of the National Seashore and a lot of different things. So, and there's an actual pretty cool connection down the line with my father's side, with the Mayflower Compact and the signer of the Declaration of Independence. Um, and on my dad's side, Fauquier, we've got the signer of the Declaration of Independence is one of the prominent things on here, and many other people from that era, even before that. The first royal governor of Virginia was Francis Fauquier. We're direct descendants of him as well. So, my name is Dave Fauquier. I'm the first son of Ted and Jenny Fauquier, or mom and dad, or mama and tata, depending on who you talk to. And that's what this video that I'm going to create is all about. Most of you have been very kind to share with me your thoughts and your memories. I got almost the whole family on this 13th generation. So let's get into it and let's just see where it all goes. Let's have some fun and see where it all takes us.
I am Lewis Morris, eldest son of a colonial lord, Yale graduate, farmer, and signer of the Declaration of Independence. I was born at Morrisania, my family's estate in Westchester County. I inherited the land and expanded it, acquiring farms in New York and New Jersey. I married Mary Walton. We raised 10 children together, but no amount of land or family could keep me quiet when liberty was threatened. Britain's trade restrictions began choking our livelihood. While the other colonies debated independence, New York's merchants and politicians still clung to the king, but not me. By the time New York joined the cause, I proudly added my name to the Declaration. Then the British invaded. They ravaged Morrisania, burning my fields, stealing my livestock, and nearly destroying my land. I left Congress to serve New York. As a judge, a senator, a general in the militia. I fought conspiracies, hunted spies, and when peace finally came, I turned my eyes back to the land. I tested new crops and rebuilt my farms. Liberty isn't just won on battlefields. It must be nurtured in daily life. I pushed for better schools, better roads, better laws. War had won us freedom. These things would help us keep it. I died where I was born, at Morrisania, but what I left behind, that still remains.
Many generations later, with my grandfather and my grandmother, my dad's mom and dad. And in 1919, my father was born on February 13th, 1919. One of the more interesting things is that's my grandfather sitting in the middle there with his arms folded and his legs sticking out, and he was the first fire chief in Edison, New Jersey, after one of Thomas Edison's laboratory buildings burned down. I remember this picture hanging on the wall in my grandfather's bedroom, and it was autographed by Thomas Edison. It was the only picture he had on the wall. This is Dad's confirmation picture. Handsome young man. One of Dad's first jobs was driving a fuel truck for Texaco. He met a lot of neighbors that way. One of Dad's first cars. An interesting thing about that was when he was in assisted living, they had a car show, and somebody brought a car that looked exactly like his first car. Boy, was he pickled pink. I'll never forget that. He told the story about, he told his mom the World War II was about to start, and he said, they ain't putting me in no foxhole, so he joined the Navy. He was away from home for over 3 years before he came home. His total of 6 years in the Navy. Had a friend of his one time tell me that he was the biggest beer drinker in the whole Navy. This is the USS Albemarle, the ship that he served on the whole time he was in the Navy. This ship launched the seaplanes that found the Bismarck. Very interesting. So remember I mentioned the Mayflower Compact that was signed, and we'll get to the connection later, but this is a picture of them signing the Mayflower Compact on the Mayflower, and William Brewster, who we were direct descendants of, is in this picture.
Summer was fading fast, and the window for attempting the long and dangerous ocean crossing had already started to close, when on September 6, 1620, an aging 180-ton ship called the Mayflower set out on her own across the North Atlantic on what would prove to be one of the most historic voyages of the millennium.
They weren't the people that you would expect to be founding a new colony. At least half of them were separatists, that is to say, radical Protestants, who were religious exiles, who had been living in Leiden, the Dutch Republic.
Suddenly, these Leideners, who had spent 10 years cultivating their own spiritual, very inward bond, found themselves on a ship sharing their space with strangers.
Undersupplied and overcrowded, and with the strangers the investors had insisted go with them. The Mayflower left Plymouth Harbor, off the south coast of England. William Bradford remembered her finally setting forth under a prosperous wind.
And so they left. But they knew they were pilgrims, and looked not much on these things, but lift up their eyes to the heavens, their dearest country.
If you wanted to go to America, you should try to leave February or March at the latest, so you could get there in the spring and give yourself a full spring and summer to become accustomed to the new world and to do all the things you had to do before the winter set in. In fact, of course, they ended up leaving in September, which was about as bad as it could be.
Early on the morning of Thursday, November 9th, 1620, after more than 2 months at sea, a crew member spied a line of high bluffs. It was the first land they had seen in 65 days. But even before they dropped anchor, long festering tensions between the strangers and the pilgrims broke out into the open. Many of the strangers began to speak openly of splintering off and going their own way once they came ashore.
This day, before we came to harbour, observing some not well affected to unity and concord, gave some appearance of faction. It was thought good there should be an association and agreement, that we should combine together in one body and submit to such government and governors, as we should by common consent agree to make and choose, and set our hands to this that follows, word for word.
On the morning of November 11th, 1620, the Mayflower Compact was offered up for signature. The vast majority of the men on board put their names to the paper, stating that they agreed to combine themselves together into a civil body politic with the power to enact whatever laws proved necessary to preserve the group. Years later, when William Bradford and others codified the rules of Plymouth Colony in a new book of laws, on the very first page, they described the compact as a solemn and binding combination, whose authority came from the fact that it was based upon the vote of the governed.
The Mayflower Compact and the Declaration of Independence are separated by more than 150 years, but they share a deep connection in ideas about self-government, liberty, and the consent of the government. Here's how they connect. The Mayflower Compact, written by the Pilgrims aboard the Mayflower, was the first governing document in the American colonies created by the people themselves. It established the principle that government derives its authority from an agreement or compact among those governed, the people. The Declaration of Independence. The same principle appears in Jefferson's word that governments derive their power from the consent of the governed, the people. The compact was a seed. The Declaration was a full expression of that idea. So therein lies the connection that I told you about. Part of the 12th generation was my grandmother and my grandfather, and my grandmother, who I never met. And then my mom was born on January 4th, 1923. There she is. My mom, Ginny. And this is my grandfather. This is Ansel, who I did know, and his second wife, who I knew as my grandmother, who some of the kids called Mickey. And here's Mom as a young girl on Cape Cod. And the connection's coming because during the war, she joined the Navy. And from what I heard, she was quite a hit with the guys. So I heard. Until she met my dad, and they were married in Moorhead Township in North Carolina. Then Dad went to Rhode Island and brought back a Quonset hut that he bought from the Navy and bought 8 acres in North Edison. And him and my mom and my grandfather started to put it together. It's where we lived for our early childhood. And here's it a little more finished. A very interesting way to live. And here they are still doing the construction of it. And Dad in his underwear. And we had an outhouse there, believe it or not. That's how we went to the bathroom. And then along came me. I'm told that's me. And that's me in the little tub on the side. And there's the well that we got the water from. And then along came Gene, the second son. And then Kenneth. Now we have 3 boys. And here we are, roughly looking, and we were growing up. And we lived right at the corner of New Dover and Parker Road. A lot of friends on Parker Road. Here we are going to Manasquan at the beach. And there's the potbelly stove that we used to keep warm inside that Quonset hut. And that's exactly how we used to sit, right there. And after the beach, we'd go to Walt's 42nd Bar and Grill in Linden, and that's where I saw Dad drink his first beer. And there's some family things at Nana's house. It's cousin Johnny, and Joanne, my cousin. And here we are, studly 3 boys. There's Tippy at my grandmother's house on a holiday. And Mom became the first secretary at J.P. Stevens High School, where we and a lot of our daughters and everybody went to school. And Dad worked on a railroad for 40 years until Mom made him build a house. So there's the Quonset hut in the corner, and the house that he built mostly with his bare hands. And there it is. It's not there anymore. And I joined the Navy. I didn't want to be in a foxhole either. So I joined the Navy, and I was, during the Vietnam War, I was a Navy hospital corpsman. And after that, we all went further on our lives, and after I got out, Dad and I opened up a couple of gas stations, and there was us a training school. This is the first gas station we had in Ford's on Amboy Avenue. Kenneth worked there with us for a while, and this is another station we had out on Route 9 and 1. And while I was there, I became fire chief in Edison, like my grandfather. Gene went off to New York City and did some financial stuff with Citibank, and Kenneth went up and was living in Northeast Pennsylvania and owned a tank testing company and worked for them for many years. And here we are with the first set of grandkids to Mom and Dad. And there they are. Lori, Nicole, Jamie, and Jason. And here they are as young ladies. That was Jamie. Here's Lori, my daughter. And Jason. And Nicole. The 4 grandkids. And when Mom and Dad went into assisted living, we moved our Christmas in July to their facility. And here's one of the Christmas in July thing with some of the great-grandkids.
So my memories of Mom and Dad go back, way back to when I was first born, obviously, but I don't remember exactly that, but I do remember early on where all the things that they taught us was the basis for what I am today. Growing up in the Quonset hut was very humbling and modest, to say the least. We all stood around a potbelly stove to get warm in the morning. We had to walk to school, things that you don't see a lot of the kids doing these days. They're driving them right up to the front. But we walked sometimes 1.5 miles to get to school. Dad gave us 8 acres of land to play in. So all my brothers and I just went out there and we played till dark, and without any kind of major restrictions. As long as we did our chores, kept our room fairly neat, they let us run till we wanted to play till into the evening. So taking trips to Manasquan, trips to Cape Cod. Cape Cod was the best, as we all know. Wellfleet is an ideal place where my mom was born. They gave us free reign there too, that we could just go and walk down to the pier, walk wherever we wanted to go, and just have fun. Mom was always the tough one. She was the one who put a lot of restrictions on us, if you will. But again, these things helped us in the long run. She would make us and Dad say, "Excuse me," may I be excused from the table to leave the dinner table. And if we didn't want to eat what was put on the table, we would go to bed hungry. Even though I hated fish sticks, and she tried to fool me with those mushrooms. One time she went ahead and ground up a bunch of mushrooms and put them in the pasta sauce. It didn't go over well with me, because at the end of the meal there was a pile of mushrooms on the side of that plate. Dad was the one who was outside doing his strawberries and blueberries and gardening. That's what he loved to do, and he was always one to be outside. Much as Mom tried to fool me with those fish sticks, we tried to fool her at times. She would go up to the Cape, and Dad would go and get her and leave us home alone, and we would have a party later on in life. Mom would come home, and she'd see a little stain on the coffee table, and we tried to tell her it was the cats. But she knew. She really knew. It was Kenneth. So that's the way it was in our house. Donna, you like to?
I just they just welcomed me like I was one of their own since the moment I met them. I'm gonna cry. I don't know why, but
Okay.
actually the whole family did, and it means so much to be part of this family. And I have so many memories too, but I don't want to go over 3 minutes.
Right. So these are the things that, again, make us better people because of the things, the way we were brought up by mom and dad. Mom and dad taught us well, and we miss them and wish they were still here with us. But and we gave those stuff to our children and our grandchildren, and hopefully they're gonna be see what the family is all about, and that's the way it is. Love you. Take care. Bye.
Mom and Dad, my mom and Tata, great parents growing up. We always had a warm bed, always had food on the table. When we were kids, they took us places. It wasn't real often we went as a family, but when we did, it was always a good time. Day trips to Manasquan. We would take family vacation every year up Cape Cod and stay in a cottage behind Grammy's. They would take us places up there. That was usually for a week. We did that. Everybody was, as kids, we had it made, actually. We had plenty of room to do what we wanted to do. Mom was always there for us to take us wherever we wanted to go. Scouts, Little League. After Little League, we'd go to McDonald's, which was on the opposite side of town. The time we went camping, and the grandkids, I'll say, borrowed instead of steal the lifeguard stand. That was a good camping trip. I believe they were retired. I want to say that was my mom's retirement party, maybe. Dad usually worked 2 jobs, but he would take me. When he was on the railroad, we'd stop and get chocolate eclairs. We'd go to the shack, they called it. Dad would go out and do his thing out on the railroad cars. I would sit there by the fireplace, eating my eclair, happy. That was usually on a Saturday, Sunday. We did what we had to do. You miss them. But as growing up, they were definitely there for us. A lot of memories, all good memories. We miss them.
My journey with the Fauquiers began in 1969. Kenny and I had our first date. From there, it's history. So 54 years later, here we are doing a video of his parents. My journey began, we got married when we were young, and my mom and Tata were very gracefully accepted me into the family when I was, like I said, very young. I have so many memories of them that it's very difficult for me to do this. My mom taught me so much. She taught me how to cook, how to knit, how to do cross stitch, a lot of different things. Tata, my dad passed away at a young age, so Tata became a father figure to me when I was young. We had many conversations walking along the beach up in Cape Cod about how he and my mom met, and just so on and so forth. His Navy career, how my mom went down to marry him with her trunk, which I thought was real cute that he called it a trunk. Tata was famous for his blueberry pie, which I still make today and always give him credit for his recipe. My mom I met her before I even dated Kenny for the first time, which was New Year's Eve, 1969. I knew her because she was the principal secretary at Stevens High School. People, when I told them I was marrying Kenny Fauquier, they were like, "Oh, Mrs. Fauquier is going to be your mother-in-law?" Yeah, she is. And you know what? She turned out to be the best mother-in-law in the world. as I said, my memories go on and on and on of Cape Cod, of just, different things that we did together. When Tata retired, our camping trip when Mom retired, her camping trip when the kids stole the chair and Mom sat in the lifeguard's chair proudly while we enjoyed our weekend. Again, I can't say enough about being their daughter-in-law. They accepted me as part of the family, I believe, because they had 3 boys, and so it was nice to have a girl in the family. Our Christmas in July turned out to be from Christmases. At Christmas time, we all gathered at our house in Pennsylvania. One year it snowed, and we had to change it, so we changed it to July, which worked out very well. It was fun because we had the lake and the kids enjoyed a boat and things like that. So now Lori is carrying on the tradition, and I hope that next year everybody will be here to enjoy Christmas in Florida at Lori and TJ's home.
So we're talking about these 2 people that some of you refer to as Mom and Dad, Mom and Tata, Ginny and Ted. So I had to figure out when I came into the family how I was going to refer to them, because Ginny and Ted didn't seem quite respectful enough. Mom and Tata, well, they weren't my Mom and Tata, and they're not really my Mom and Dad. So I called them Mom and Dad Falkware. So, and that seemed to work. And I had the opportunity to really see them and get to know them on a day-to-day basis because we lived nearby. When they were in Edison, Dave and I would stop by and visit, and we might only be there for 10 minutes, but we got to see them as sort of regular daily kinds of things. And then when they moved into the Chelsea, we got to see them quite a bit, and it was great. We got to see Mom doing the things that she does, which is her reading and her crossword puzzles. And when we would go to see Dad Falkware, he was always laughing. I remember walking in Chelsea one day and he was watching those Dean Martin celebrity roasts. He was laughing so hard, and I'm sure you can all picture it and hear it when he laughed, that really hard laugh, and he couldn't stop. And of course, what would Mom be doing? She'd be rolling her eyes. It was pretty funny. Anyway, I guess what I learned from them is that you should be true to who you are. And they loved doing those things all their lives, and they continued doing them even as they got a little older. There are a couple of things that I think they've passed on to Dave, which I think is great for Dave. And good for me. Dave knows how to iron. He does all the ironing in the family. And he said he learned that because they had to take care of things when they were growing up at home because Mom Falkware worked. So that works. And I think he passed on his green thumb to Dave too. And Dave just loves that. And he remembers learning things from his dad. And it was just our opportunity to spend time with them day-to-day basis. And there's one other thing that really sticks out in my mind is doing that balloon puzzle. Remember that hot air balloon puzzle that sat in their room at the Chelsea? And every time we went over, Dave and I would sit down and say, okay, we're not leaving until we get at least one puzzle piece in. And sometimes it would be 10 minutes, sometimes we'd be there for an hour. But it was great to visit with them and just be there day to day and be part of their lives and have them be part of ours. We were very fortunate. And we miss them a ton. That never changes.
So I decided, of all the things that I could remember about my Mom and Tata, which is just so very, very many things. And there's so many stories that we all know and tell and remember. So I wanted to try to pick something completely different. One of the things that I have a fond memory of is them coming to visit. And that goes all the way back to them visiting when we lived in Pennsylvania and we were little. And of course, nobody had cell phones. We didn't, we just knew they would call and say, we'll be there. We're planning to get up in the morning and drive up on Saturday, whatever. And then just being with Jason and looking out the back door of the yellow house, which wasn't yellow then, and just seeing them pull up the driveway and just yelling, they're here, because we were so excited that, you know, they were coming for the weekend to visit. And then when I was in college, and they would come and visit and take me out for dinner. So that was a different kind of them coming to visit. And then them coming to visit, they would come on the train I can remember when I met Chris, and we were living in this our first apartment together, and they came for the weekend, and it was really a crappy apartment. But anyway, they came and we were like, oh, here, take our bed, and you know, all of that. And then a week later, we actually got a check in the mail from my mom that said, please go buy a new bed. But anyway, and then they would come on the train when the kids were little, and then we would go and pick them up at BWI at the train station, and they would come and spend the weekend with us and, you know, just hang out. And we went to the B&O Museum and did all kinds of things with them. And so that's one thing I always remember. And then when it got to the point that they couldn't travel anymore, it was very noticeable, because they could no longer come and visit. And I realized how much I missed them coming and visiting, because when we all go there, we're all there. Or, you know, we would visit in their space, but having them in our home for the whole weekend, we got them for the whole weekend. And that was really special. So that's just a very cool memory that
with Mom, Ginny, and Tata was just getting together as a family, whether it was going to lunch, Christmas in July, just making memories with everybody. And I am so thankful that I got to make so many memories with my great-grandparents and spend
So my favorite memory of my mom is right around this time of year. Actually, every year when I was little, she would say that it was time for her and I to go on a date. And she would pick me up and take me to Gimbel's department store, and then she would allow me to pick out Christmas gifts for my parents that I'd be able to, you know, Christmas morning, give them from me, which was like super special to be able to do. I do remember that my dad ended up every year getting ties because I wasn't really sure what else to get him. And then after we would leave Gimbel's, she would take me to eat. We would go across the street to IHOP, and I would always get the same thing. I would get short stack pancakes with strawberry syrup. So yeah, that's definitely one of my most special memories of my mom. And then for Tata, that one is bigger, I think, just because I was fortunate to spend pretty much every day with him. My kindergarten year, I was lucky enough to be able to attend kindergarten, not in my local school district, but in the school district where they lived. So I would get picked up every day by him, and he let me play at the tire park at James Madison for a little bit, and then we would walk from the school to home. And then he would always make me the same thing for lunch, which was poached eggs and toast, and which I absolutely love to this day. I will go out to breakfast, like Sunday brunch, and always order that. No matter where I go, I do get that often. And then we would watch the Match Game, which I've also found quite funny these days to still sort of watch on, I think it's like Retro TV has it. And then we would take a nap, and Sam and Dusty would snuggle up next to us, and then we would spend the entire rest of the day outside, which is probably why I love gardening and being outdoors so much. So that's it. All right. Love you.
Hey everyone. So first, I want to start off talking about Tata, who I think was an amazing man. I have so many fond memories and so many stories when it comes to Tata, and I think all of us do. We have probably a lot of funny ones as well, especially when it comes to Tata. One of the things that I used to love is when I would sit and talk with him sometimes, he would start to tell me stories about when he was growing up or when he was in the Navy. It's funny because I actually happened to open a book that I haven't opened in a long time, and I found a piece of paper with Tata stories on it because I would always try to capture and try to remember everything, and there are just so many amazing stories that Tata used to share with us, to growing strawberries. And I remember him telling me how he learned how to draw strawberries, and how when the vine used to go over, and how one guy told him to put a rock there, and then like when it rooted, then to cut that, and then you start over again with the next one, and how that's how you keep getting more and more strawberries plants, which I always thought was pretty cool story. I love his stories when it came to Thomas Edison, when he met him as a child. But I think one of the funniest, kind of, I guess you can call it a funny story, is when he used to say that, Thomas Edison's laboratory was there, and he goes, they used to just throw stuff out the window whenever they were done with it. And he goes, I can remember that they used to dump it in this area, and me and my friends would go down there, and we would, go through it, and we used to play with this really cool silver stuff. Like, Lori, you'd like flick it and it would just like roll. He goes, little did we know we were playing with mercury. So that was one story that I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool in a weird way. But always his stories were always amazing. And then there's just the stories that you can say of what you experienced with him, such as on the side of the house, they used to have that sand pile, which would also not only have a little cat poop in there once in a while, but broken plates. But I can remember one time of getting like sand in my eye or something, and him scraping. I don't know if it was me or maybe it was Nicole, but I remember like I'm scraping the eyes, and he's like, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. And you're like, my eyes, or the time when he took us in the pickup truck because, down the street was the horse farm, and they had all the horse manure, which was great fertilizer for his strawberries. And in the middle of the summer, when it's like, really hot, and God forbid if you would put the air conditioning on, because they might suck up a little gas, and have the little window open, and he's shoveling horse manure in the back, and we're like, Tata, it smells, and he's just like, you'll be fine, don't worry about it. Or him telling the story about how he waited out in front of the house for the bus to go by, which I think maybe went by one time a day, and how he took the bus and had to connect to another bus, like to basically go like maybe 5 miles down the road to the grocery store because I don't know what it was, potatoes, strawberries, apples, or something were on sale, and he didn't want to spend the money on the gas that would take him there. Now, it would take him all day. It would take him all day to get there, but he saved money, and that was always, an important thing for Tata because, they were poor. He'd always be like, we have no money, which was always a kind of funny thing. But I appreciate everything that Tata did for me. Tata would take me when I was in clinicals. I had to go to Hoboken, and he would be like, to help me save money, he would go with me because he had his train pass. He would wait for me. I'd be in clinicals for like 3 hours, and I would go to Hoboken. He would go get coffee somewhere or something like that, and I'd meet him, and then he'd take me back on the train. So he, the biggest heart man that I know, and I will always know. That's why most of you know I have a tattoo, and I have him on my heart side, strawberries on my heart, because he definitely had my heart. I loved that man more than anything. And that is Tata. And I'm going to stop because I know I could be here all day talking about all the amazing stories about Tata.
couple of memories I have of Mama and Tata. Remember going camping and sleeping on that overhead bunk in the mornings, waking up to the smell of nice fresh coffee. I don't know if that's where my love of coffee came from, but I used to love waking up to that smell. My Mom Jenny story. Me and a couple of buddies go up to Cape Cod for a week. Legal drinking age is 21. We're not 21. And took a few cases of beer with us. Rented one of those little cottages, and we had just gotten pretty much all the beer unloaded. Some of our other stuff, but the beer had it stacked in the corner, didn't get it covered yet, and Mama walks in the door. She just looked at us and said, "Oh boy." Looked and said, "Just be careful." Turned around, walked out, never said another word about it. So I don't know if she said anything to anybody, but I know I didn't tell anybody. And that's definitely my fondest memory of Mama Jenny. At the time, it was a little scary, but thinking about it now, it was definitely a good memory. Tata, oof, a lot of memories. Just going on bike rides, things like that. Think about them every day.
Oh, Mama and Tata. I remember the first time I heard those words, it was the mid-'80s when I had first met Jason. And the first thing I thought was, wow, those are some great names. I just had a grandma and grandpa. He had a Mama and Tata. I thought that was so regal. But anyway, fast forward 1996 Christmas. It was the first time I was going to meet the entire family. And Jason had told me throughout the years that Mama was the patriarch and that if she didn't like it, you didn't stand a chance. Like I had to make this woman like me. Or I guess I just wasn't going to happen. So I made it through that Christmas, got to the house. I was a nervous wreck. My stomach was in knots, but I made it through the day and I think everyone liked me. And, you know, as the years go by, Mama and Tata were moving out of New Dover Road and she knew I loved Christmas and she offered me her Christmas decorations. And in that moment, I was like, you know what? I really do think she likes me. I think I'm going to be okay. Her decorations were so pristine and everything was labeled. And I just felt so honored to receive those items. Now on to Tata. I didn't have many interactions with him that, you know, made for a great story, except for the day of our wedding. We had just done the garter bouquet toss where we gave it to Mama and Tata. And after he gave me a hug and he said, and I'll never forget this, he was like, well, you kids might have done this backwards, but I'm just grateful that you had a boy. And I was like, well, I guess that's a sign of approval from him. So anyway, those are my stories. I miss them greatly. They were wonderful grandparents. And I just hope that Jason and I get to be married as long as they.
My favorite memory of Tata is probably when I was like 10 or 11. We went to visit him and Mum at their retirement home in New Jersey, and I think he was right out of hospice at that point, and Grandpa and I were walking around with him just around the retirement home, and he kept trying to speed away and get up and do things, and we had to be like telling him all the time, like, can you just relax? Wait, we got you, it's fine, like we'll take you around. And he's like, no, I got this. So that was pretty funny. And yeah, that's probably my favorite memory of him. And then my favorite memory of Mum was, I mean, every time we saw each other in Pennsylvania, we would always talk about like whatever books we were reading. And then one year in Pennsylvania, she gave me like autobiography of Wayne Gretzky, which I still have, I think, in my apartment in Portland, and I reread that like every other year. So Yeah, I really like that that book and that memory. So those are probably my two favorite memories of them. So
Hi, Uncle Dave.
yeah.
My favorite memory, or the one that sticks the most to my brain of my mom and Tata, is when I was in, I believe, middle school. It kind of felt like a while ago, but I think it was middle school or elementary, something around that time. Well, we went to visit them in New Jersey when they lived in the retirement home. And I remember, I was young, so I kind of had this kind of, I was a little nervous because I didn't really know what to expect, because I don't think I'd ever been in like a retirement home before, and I was kind of worried it was going to be awkward or even scary just because I hadn't been there and I didn't really have a very solid idea of what aging was like. So I had this concern that it was going to be kind of just sad. Like, I would have felt really sad just to be in there, which, wasn't something I was looking forward to. But we did end up going, of course. And the first thing I remember was when we met up with my mom, and she was showing me all these coloring books that she would do. And I remember looking at these these beautiful, like very intricate, very well filled out like coloring books. And I was so impressed and I was so intrigued, and I was like, oh, this is like so cool. Like, I was like, I want to be able to do this. And so I was already kind of over those nerves that I had before, because I realized that, it's not really all bad, and that there was there was this joy of being around and having things to do, like coloring books, like just things that were so minimal but still created that joy and that ability to create and put your mind to something. And yeah, I remember I looked through all of her coloring books and I was very impressed, and I wanted to do them myself. And I remember, I think when I went home, I had coloring books. I don't remember if they were gifted to me. I don't remember where they came from, but I do remember having coloring books and trying to replicate how specific all of her coloring book pages were, and I couldn't do it. And I was like, God, oh, come on. Like, I was so upset about not being able to do it the way she had. But yeah, that was something that, I really liked and really remember about her. Then for Tata, I don't think I'll ever forget the video that we got of him, of the ball that he would hit against the wall and then had like a pole and he would smack it back, and it was like an exercise of some sort. And I remember seeing that and being like, whoa, because he was like 87 or something, and it was like, I was like, wow, okay, because he was just, seeing him exercise was like, it was so cool. And so it was funny, but it wasn't funny in like a mean way. It was funny in like a that's incredible way. And that was another sort of reminder for me at a young age that, like, time doesn't, cut off life. After living for a certain amount of years, you don't ever stop living. There's nothing that can stop you from doing anything that you want to do and enjoying yourself for the fullest. And it's something that has stuck with me for a while, because I'm 20 years old. And I always feel every time that a birthday comes around, I have this like weird like weight that comes on me of like, oh, there's like, time is passing, and as time goes on, I'm going to change and things are going to be different. But I always kind of remember both of them and the way that they both continued to bring this light and this energy and this power into the world, even as they were way older than I currently am now. And that's something that gets rid of that fear and that uncertainty about getting older. And it's something I really appreciated about both of them as I've continued to grow, and as they're unfortunately no longer here, I've sort of kind of realized and fully understood just how much of an impact they've had on my life, and just how much I've learned from the both of them. So yeah, those are my two favorite memories, and I have a guest. Come on up. Oh, she decided to go behind me. She also misses them very much. love you.
Here you go, Sadie. Here's a picture from the coloring book you referenced.
Hi everyone, I hope you're enjoying your Christmas party. When it comes to Mama and Tata, I would say I am very grateful to have had great-grandparents for as long as I did. Because of them, I got to experience Cape Cod and all the fun things that come with it. I would also say some of the fondest memories I've had with them are our Green Turtle festivities every year with the family and getting together. Also, I would say our 6th annual Falkwer Family Christmas in July, our little luau that we had. I would say I miss them very dearly and wish I got to spend more time with them. And that's all I got for now. Love you and miss you guys.
So when looking back at Mom, Ginny, and Tata, I think one of the things that resonates most with me would be their strong sense of unity and unity of the entire family. It was really important for them to make sure that we were all together as much as possible. And in turn, I think it was important for us to make sure that we were also there for them. Some of my greatest memories, specifically, we're talking about the Cape. I think every single one of us in this family has a specific memory we could think of that relates back to the Cape. Square dancing, whale watching, eating sandwiches and eating Cape Cod chips on the beach. I think those are all special memories for me specifically, and like I said, as well as everybody else. And it's because of them and the foundation they made for this family that we continue some of the traditions that we still have today. So, like I said, looking back, I think their strong sense of family is what's really the most important thing to me. I hope you guys are all well. Hope to see you soon, and take care.
In this video, I just wanted to share something that I did actually after Tata had passed away, that I think that as we're sharing all of our stories may ring true to you guys as well. As you all know, we lost our mom and Tata in a very short time frame, but I also lost my grandmother, my Grammy, in between the two of them. And so I lost all of my grandparents in a very short time frame. And after Tata's service, not after, but the service that the Reverend had delivered was really hit home for me on everything that he was saying. I think he did an amazing job. And I actually wrote him a letter afterwards. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to read a section of it that I think may ring true for all of us as we reflect upon all of these stories that we are telling about our Mama and Tata. The services you did for both of my grandparents was amazing, but the one you did for my Tata was even more meaningful as I have come to the end of the most amazing generation in my family. I can no longer say I'm the luckiest girl. All of my grandparents are still alive. Now, I often find myself reflecting on my childhood growing up and the impact they all truly had on who I am today. Because unfortunately, when they were alive, I didn't reflect. I just lived. Your words that day made their actions and their love even more powerful in my heart, and a reminder to also just sometimes sit back and reflect upon those who are still with us and making a difference in our lives. Because life isn't just about living, and it's not just the stories that we tell about them, but the meaning behind the stories that mold us into who we are today. I am forever grateful for the stories I leave with us, and that now I can say my grandparents have all gone home, but they are forever within me, guiding me to help me create my stories for the next generation. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the beautiful and meaningful words. So I hope that reflects upon all of you guys as we reflect upon the stories that Mom and Tata and even my Grammy have given us, and the meaning and inspiration they have given us to all be who we are today. Thank you.